Hello everyone, it's me, Clayton. I just got back from watching Ready Player One, directed by Steven Spielberg, and based on a best-selling novel. Now, if you haven't guessed already, I'm an enormous geek. I love anime, video games, movies, comic books, basically anything that could be associated with geek culture. And so when I saw the trailers for this movie and looked up its source material, I of course was very excited to see this movie. And to be honest, it fulfilled all my expectations and then some. It is a absolutely crazy, highly entertaining movie, full of references, great action, and really impressive special effects, but it's also got a very good message deep down. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story takes place in the not-too-distant future of 2045, where we focus on Wade Watts. He is a player of this game called The Oasis, which has swept over the entire world, mainly because most of people's lives suck, and now they feel like they have to be in the Oasis for the majority of their lives in order to feel any sense of happiness. So when Wade decides to go for the main prize in this little Easter egg hunt, so to speak, made by the game's main developer, he meets a girl by the name of Artemis, and he has to find a way to win this Easter egg hunt, to find the Easter egg in the game and get 3 specific keys before an evil businessman gets them first. That's all I'll say about the story without spoiling anything. But what I will say about the story is that it's not very original. It's essentially Willy Wonka mixed with video game, anime, and comic book and movie references. But for the type of story it is, it does it very well. You do get a sense of who the characters are. The action throughout keeps you enthralled. And the third act, even though it does go on for a little bit long, is every single pandering but also awesome thing you'd expect from a movie with this type of premise. I mean, in what other movie are you going to see thousands of references to geek culture fighting a literal army of faceless robots? The characters themselves are pretty one note and pretty typical of most films, but I do think it was very much intentional by the original author and intentional by the screenplay. But even despite the fact that they are fairly unoriginal, they're still very likable, mainly due to the actors' performances, especially Watts himself, as he does sort of seem like a everyman character. And that's both from his appearance in the real world and as his appearance in Oasis. But the characters in the story are really just standard. The things that truly make the film stand out are the visual effects, which are very well detailed. There are references practically every second in the first and third acts, but in the second act it does slow things down a little bit, and it allows you to take in the story, and it allows you to take in who these characters are and when they get their necessary development. Because the thing is, even though this film is loaded with references and loaded with everything to kiss up to geek culture that you can imagine, it does know when to slow down. It does know when to hold back and just focus on the things that are important in a story. It essentially has its cake and eats it too, in that way. The music is also very well done. It was done by Alan Silvestri, and if you know his background, you know his movie themes are very well handled, and it's the same thing here. It feels very video game oriented, and it manages to fit the tone very well, while still being its own thing. If you're wondering what my favorite references in the film were, they're mainly the ones that have already appeared in the trailers. You know, the ones like the Iron Giant and Tracer from Overwatch. There's a bajillion other ones, but some of them are either just there to have the audience, notice, hey, I noticed that reference, or hey, I noticed that reference. Whereas some are legitimately used for humor, particularly in the third act. So if you like the references, like them. If you don't. They're just there. But the last thing I'll say about this film is the message. I won't spoil it here, but the message is very, while done to death, is executed very well here. It feels like the message that this film should have, given the environment the characters are in. It feels natural without talking down to the audience, and it still ends on a satisfying note. And it really does feel like it was intentional here from the start. Does this mean it's a perfect film? Not really. There is a bit of stilted writing, especially with the narration for the first half hour of the film. Some subplots do feel a little bit rushed, and I do feel that some characters deserved a little more screen time, but that's about it. Ready Player One is a love letter to geek culture in general that's pandering, but also insanely entertaining. I give it an 8 out of 10. See you next time.